Hi guys, how are we doing? Okay, so quick discussion. I just woke up from dream time, and it was a little disconcerting, kind of like what I was shown. Last night we had a really good group in our Patreon and had a wonderful discussion, a really wonderful heart to heart. But some things came to the surface, and I'm here to share a few of what's coming through this morning about what's going on. Okay, so it has to do with the soul. So basically, I was shown essentially in our own, I'm going to use this term lightly, or in our configuration of light in our light bodies, okay, that some of us were choosing something that would be referred to as dead light. So this form of light is kind of like a stale light. It doesn't move. It's stagnant. Like, it's kind of like, as I saw it, like a holographic screen. It has detail embedded in it, but it doesn't really do much. So dead light tends to stagnate. Also, too, is it's not built upon organic light. It's not an organic light solution. Okay. So here's the thing that I want to share about this. Some of us in our journey, we kind of like subscribed or opted into the concept of light and being a light worker. What started to occur though was there was like kind of an enmeshment or an entanglement in the perspective of light, the perception of light, and the light of others, which means we were creating a lot of dependencies, we were creating addictions, and there was very much so a space where there was very little fulfillment. So what happened, and what I've seen in these kinds of corrections, is that there's moments in which we do things, right, based upon this light plan or this light path, and nothing gets fulfilled. Well, first off, shadow work, right? Like always, shadow work. That's why some of us do the alchemy. I do a lot of alchemy to correct those timelines. But the thing here is that it's not about, so guru, right, initiates and activates, right? Guru reflects. So everything mirrors, right? And in that mirroring is showing us what's available from within. The issue is that some of us chose the light of others, the light of channelers, the light of beings, and the light of entities, right, that weren't a part of our own soul's light. And as a result, we started walking into things like fallen blueprints and those kinds of experiences, okay? So this is the thing that starts to create what we would call the phantoms. So we have this phantom matrix, the false light matrix, the twilight masters, and trust me, it too is a very complex design in which some of us don't have all the details on how to get out of it. But here's something I want to share with you that you can do every single day, okay? What you can do is continue to choose the soul's light. Choose the organic soul light and allow it to return and allow that to repair. Whether this takes a couple of hours, a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, or a couple of years, do that. And you're going to have your moment of breakthrough, but it's about choosing that soul's light. So at a soul perspective, are humans to chose to walk through very complex levels of multidimensionality because of a lot of things, right? Money, greed, power, fame, fortune. A lot of us grew up in the influencer era, and the influencer era brought in a lot of virtue signaling light worker capabilities, which is, neither good nor bad. It's neither here nor there, but it brought in a lot of things where we didn't have any practical application for a lot of the tools that were occurring. And a lot of what I see in older mastery schools is that their spirit and their spirituality woke up in other countries. It woke up through the church. It woke up over in other experiences. It didn't very much, it might have woken up online, but there was a moment in which they retreated from the system to find themselves, and that's when they followed their calling. Now, the thing is that the complexity of these systems and experiences can be overwhelming and can feel like too much, and a lot of us can feel like we're trapped, stuck, and or enslaved in some of these systems that are overcomplicated. So the first things first, it's a paradigm. So as we recognize it is a paradigm that exists, and we can play in it or we can opt out of it. And when we choose to opt out of it, we can go choose something different, such as the soul, such as the soul's light. And that in itself will navigate, it will direct, and it will guide us to somewhere in which we create a sense of fulfillment in our own patterning, a fulfillment in our own journey, a fulfillment in our own energy, and a fulfillment in our own life path built upon the soul's design. The thing is that when we start going into channeling, multidimensionality, higher dimensional consciousness, extraterrestrials, angelics, all these things, and we're not doing the shadow work, what happens? Some of us, that's where we get our learning. That's sometimes where we get smacked in our face. That's sometimes where we meet things like the fourth dimension, or we meet all of this stuff. So here's the thing, right? Is when we were subscribing to this light, we were subscribing to sometimes programmed light. We were subscribing to light that wasn't true to organic nature, or we were choosing light spectrums of others that weren't a part of our soul's plan. And then there was that moment in which we were like, yo, I don't feel like myself, right? I don't feel authentic. And how do we get back to that space of authentic alignment? What is our truth, right? And this is where we call back our ascension flames, right? For myself, it was like, okay, let me go back to the white fire. And when I build from the white fire, when I go back to, when I go back to my original lineages, my original logos, and what rays of manifestation I chose to come through, that's where I start running those corrections. But beyond all that, because that too has its complexities, and I know what it's like to run through the Chohans and the Fallen Masters and inorganic templates and holographic connections and all this stuff. Is just choose the soul, choose the soul, choose the soul, and allow that to run the corrections and repair. Here's why. If you are wanting to go into the higher levels, like if you're wanting to work at the oversoul level, you want to work at that monadic level, how do you get up there? Through the soul. Through the soul. The soul is the gateway. The soul is the gateway to the higher heavens. Soul is the gateway to everything. And so if you have chosen over and over and over again the teachers, the gurus, the other healers and things like this, and you felt left out, you felt abandoned, you felt unfulfilled, and you're like, why isn't this working? It's time to call your soul back. It's time to call your soul back. It's time to call your soul back, and it's time to clear soul contracts if that's something that you choose to work with. Now, here's the thing. Here's the issue. We have intellectualized and over-conceptualized spirituality to the point that we have created spiritual egos. And when we've created spiritual egos, we've created less than, we've created more than, we've created importance, we've created the virtue signaling, we've created so much because of influencers, because of marketing, because of career, because of purpose, because of so much. And the thing that's tough now is a lot of the soul's choices. Do I keep doing what I need to do, right, to make money, to live, to build my home, to do all these things, or do I choose my soul? And I correct from there. And sometimes this requires some of us to completely start over, and it can be scary, especially when you've built a life, you've built a personality, you've built an identity, you've built even a bridge, right? It can be a lot. Starting over can be a lot. And this is a part of the deconstruction that's a part of the soul's plan right now, especially as we are completely awakening to what a new earth represents. Okay. So yes, there has been a lot of things that have spilt into our reality, spilt into our environment, and there's a lot of boo-boos that we're healing here on planet Earth. And I know I'm sounding silly right now, but these are things that have affected me. These are things that have hurt me. These are pains that I've witnessed. These are things that I've been a part of and I didn't know. These are things that I was subscribed to. These are things that hurt. These are the things that hurt my abilities. And these are the things that even hurt my purpose work. These are the things that stopped me, collapsed me, made me want to give up. It was kind of like some of the bigger quote-unquote hints of enslavement that we're clearing from some of these corruptive angles and corruptive experiences, okay? Here's the thing. We don't want to gaslight it, right? So yeah, you're aware that it's going on. Truth be told, okay, what is it? What comes to the surface? Is it fear? Is it things I need to work on? Is it shadow work? What shows up for us? Okay. Choose the soul. Keep choosing the soul. So at a spirit level, right? At a spiritual level, when you choose the soul aligns. The soul hears you. The soul ignites. The soul awakens, right? And from there, we can run that repair, and we're just going to organically correct. The thing is that our soul at some level has chosen difficulties and complications, and in this lightworker and spiritual community, we've chosen things that create a lot of bypass. It creates a lot of ego-driven kind of realities, which, by the way, ego is not a bad thing. It's just personality programming we got to work through. But it's also had a very, very deep, profound effect that's created a lot of separation. It's created a lot of debate. It's created a lot of truth, and it's really affected us. It's affected us through occultism. It's affected us through our daily practices. It's created divide between, church and magic and truth and false. And it's still a very, sorry to say this, ignorant and dualized program. It's still checkerboard. It's still black and white. Not to say it doesn't exist, right? A lot of what's happening with these quote unquote like phantom and inverted systems and things is that they weren't built connected to source. They were built a part of the human plan because that's a part of how humans needed to create civilization and work together, because we weren't tapping into our ancient civilizations. We weren't tapping into those pathways, but it was a part of our rehabilitation, a part of our nature of waking up to the way we treat one another, the way we build, the way we create, and how we can correct it. This is why some of us go into the archives and go into the past life work, and we recall what we're here to do. We recall those gifts and we bring them forward, such as healing, such as magic, such as crystals, such as, for some of us, even prayer. Like, I know one of my bigger things right now that I'm working on is prayer. And it's because, yeah, I do have an original prayer. But when I read the prayer of the scripture and I read the prayer of the Bible, it doesn't resonate. But there's something deep within. There's a prayer that I know that when I hear that prayer, that activates the light code of interconnectedness to the cosmos, and I sing that through my soul, my spirit ignites and I call my power back. I'm no longer falling. I'm no longer inverting. I know who I am. I'm in my power. I'm not usurped. I'm not giving my power away. I'm not helpless, right? I'm able to stand in my divine connection and to take out action as such, okay? To take action as such. So those are some of the things where we're like kind of like trying and recognizing not all of us has an easily aligned pathway to understand this, but this is what it's like sparking our blueprint and sparking our template, is that we do have a base instruction set of the way divinity works through us and the way we connect multidimensionally and the way our light body works and the way we heal and the way we travel through time, the way we navigate life. And we're starting to go, oh yeah, wait a minute, like this isn't in alignment, this isn't blah 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 whatever, and we start to like kind of pierce the veils and get through this stuff, right? So this is why at times we go very human, and I say go very human meaning we don't want to do any light worker stuff, we don't want to do spirituality, we don't want to do divinity. We're just kind of like back to the integration, back to caring about the form, back to caring about the central nervous system, back to caring about what's going on. But also too is that a lot of these systems can be very, very, very overcomplicated, and if we don't know why we're believing it or why we're listening to it, we're not asking those healthy questions to ourselves, we can begin to believe all the stuff that others say and completely negate our own belief, our own truth, or why we do what we do. It's a part of critical thinking, and critical thinking is important. But we don't want to allow the stubborn ego to get so much in the way that it blocks our light, which is why we choose the soul. So how do we choose the soul? Easy. Intention. Choose the soul. There are some people who might argue this and say you need to go to a healer, you need to go do soul retrieval work. That's fine. If that's a pathway you choose with shamanism and getting things out of the astrals and clearing a lot of that stuff, I completely get it. Here's something that I do though, and this helps me. I go outside and I connect to nature. I go outside and I look at the sun. What do we call the sun? Solaris, right? It's a source of light. Going to that sunlight and going, hello, Solaris. Right? I call back my soul. Right? I call back my organic soul's inheritance, right? I call back my light. Those things are really important. You know, it doesn't take hours to do this. You can do this within a couple minutes. The other thing too is some of us still have soul work we need to do, which means we kind of got to go into the soul perspective to understand what we're going through, because it might be too confusing for the human. But also too is that like we might have relationships we need to heal at a soul level, which is sometimes you go, hey, I need to clear that contract. I'm sorry, whatever it is, we need to clear that. Hey, I need to forgive this. I need to heal this, but I need to heal it at the soul level, not in the lower fourth dimensional astral planes, right? Not at the human level, but at a soul level. So it can very much so clear the way, especially if energies are getting in the way. So yes, sometimes the obstacle course of life and divinity can feel very complicated. Why? We've chosen to wake up to very complicated systems, and some of us don't have enough resources, enough money, or enough awareness to even figure out what to do. And as a result, we can feel left out, we can feel stuck, we can feel left behind, we can feel like we don't have a purpose work, we can feel light enslaved, we can feel completely unintegrated. Well, here's the thing. Integration's about human life. Integration's about living a day-to-day life. Integration's about being okay with home, be okay with money, be okay with food, be okay with talking to people, be okay with living a human life. The thing here is that spiritually, we have forgotten what it is to live a human form and a human life and a human reality, because we've been either a part of a great bypass or a great escapism thing, which is like very upset with where we're at in our human condition, escape to divinity, escape into the astrals, but never come back and live a qualified human life. And as a result, we become light enslaved. We're not free. We're not free. So when we choose the soul's path, when we choose freedom at a soul level, and we choose our free will choice, this is where we can call back our soul and really begin to reframe what it is to stay connected and to hear the communication, to hear the dialogue of the soul, right? It's within stillness that the soul speaks. And so this is about quieting mind, quieting levels of our being, going into that space and listening, especially when we're really getting into what that soul's dialogue is. So sometimes this means, shut off the phone, get rid of the distraction, right? Slow down the central nervous system. Perhaps the way to get to stillness is through walking, right? If you have an overactive mind, you got a very chattery thing. These are things we got to start practicing and working with. There are, once again, there are books that we can read. There's studies we can get into. We can learn about yoga. We can learn about meditation, right? Either way here is, it really is about us getting back our soul level experience, because it's so easy to believe the light of others and to want the light of others, or to even desire the light of others. But we're not here to promote and propagate light vampirism or soul vampirism, okay? This is about awakening what your soul is. So once again, it is a very complicated paradigm to get enwrapped in, but we can easily get out of it and unveil what the solution is by letting the soul come back and aligning with the soul. It's really important. This is the soul retrieval work. This is why some of us might want to do all these really wonderful things that are part of our soul plan, a part of our healing purpose and all this stuff, but we feel locked out. Well, some of us are still trying to heal these things, healing our channels, right? Healing, and I'm not saying YouTube channels, like healing our actual central channel, right? Healing our column, healing our experience, walking with integrity, right? Learning from what those experiences are, so we get out of the spiritual ego, we get out of the spiritual trap, we get out of this belief that we need someone else to unblock our divinity, or we need someone else to heal, so on and so forth. Now, I'm not saying this to say we need to go shut down healers and shut down YouTubers. No, this is not about cancel culture, people, right? This is about you standing in integrity and knowing what your needs, wants, and everything is, so you can begin to source align things. Now, here's the problem, is that human suffering and human betrayal is still built upon distorted, distracted, and kind of torn apart human relationships. Because as we're connecting to our soul and connecting to our divinity, we're starting to recognize, like, what is life outside of those really hard karmic patterns, those hard karmic lessons, those harder relationships. But sometimes the things that we're calling forward in our experience, those things that we want and need at a physical level, at a soul level, are the exact things that we do need to get to where we need to go, but we might be blocking or stagnating by not following. For instance, some people get called into magic, right? They're like, hey, I want to go work with elemental magic, but they don't do it because they're holding so much church conditioning that they have fear. And as a result, they lengthen their passageway because they're not just going and doing the thing that they're getting called intuitively to do. Some people, same thing on the opposite end. Some people want to go to church. Some people are like, I need to go to church. Why? Because everything's going to reflect back, mirror back, all the programming, all the patterning, the lessons. It's your karma and dharma. That's how we fulfill. If you want to talk about fulfillment is walking through life's journey as a human, as a soul, and beyond, to live out this life path here on planet Earth. Some of us get called out of these experiences, no longer doing these things, because there's something else that we need to learn, something we need to regain, something that we need to clear or identify within ourselves, and we're not going to find it in that experience, right? So it's like, what we don't know until we learn to live. And that's when we'll know, because it's a part of our own human pathway and human design, creation design, to live a human life. Yes, we have superpowers. Yes, we have healing capabilities. Yes, we have all these wonderful things that we call back from these experiences, right? But the thing is there's still a lot of debate in over-conceptualizing spiritual culture. Say this, soul and spirit is not meant to be this complicated. Divinity is not meant to be this complicated. But we've intellectualized, we've rationalized, we've created books, we've created literature, we've created a lot of wonderful things, even techniques, because that's what the ego and the human needed to fulfill. But it is a very simple thing, but some of us do have to allow our human, our mind, our ego, our culture, our division and everything, to really step aside, to really fully allow in spirit, to fully allow in soul, to fully allow in source, and allow source to direct, right? And this is where we allow the human and the mind to kind of to learn again, which means we got to get out of our own way, right? And this is why some of us who have some of those mastery schools we used to walk with don't feel the masters around us any longer. You want to know why? We're here to learn. We're here to rehabilitate. It's okay. It's okay. So the idea here is when we choose things at a soul level, soul, spiritual level, it will correct, right? And however we choose to navigate is perfect for us. The issue here for some of us is that there's so much truth that we've chosen to click subscribe to that some of us are in war with our own pathway. We are literally fighting ourselves every single day, and we're fighting ourselves because we don't believe in more, or we don't believe in what's going on the other side, or we don't believe in what's happening on the other side of the rainbow bridge, right? Like we just don't. And so this is about trusting our pathway and gifting ourselves to really have a healthy level of speculation and a healthy level of knowing this is what it's like disentangling from karmic patterns, karmic relationships, karmic institutions. And for some of us, that's just learning, which means houses of study, right? Ways that we see the world. And, please, I guess at the end of the day, this is me saying, don't block your fulfillment or limit your light because you expect your light, your source, your soul to sound like someone else's. Humans learn through other humans. And I'm saying, don't seek a teacher, don't seek a guide. I'm not saying that. I'm talking to the ones who are over-dependent and over-reliant upon others when they really need to, or if through free will choice, choose to align back to their own soul and what their soul is calling forward for their experience, okay? And this is where some of us can feel very stuck and very disheartened, and we can lose a lot of trust in the pathway because we don't know where our spark is. We don't know what initiates that light or that love to return, or we don't know where our healing is because we don't trust the messages that we hear, or we don't know how to hear those messages clearly. And that's because we have to be aware if ego and mind has over-intellectualized and overran the entire soul experience, we gotta let the soul back in. And this will catch up, okay? This isn't about bruising and obliterating your identity and personality completely. For some of us, it actually is. Some of us, we're that stubborn where we need to. But this is a program. The mind is a program, and it's built on beliefs. The soul isn't a program. The soul is organic light. The soul is divinity. So what we're doing is we're stripping down to that raw and vulnerable divinity from within us and allowing that to rebuild. So we can remember our inner sun. We can remember our inner Christos. We can remember our own inner divinity, our own inner masculine, our inner feminine, right? Our own inner union, our own inner child, and our own inner spirit. So soul, spirit, oversoul, monad, all of these teachings that we can extrapolate from religion hold wisdom in the greater monadic structure. And it's all a part of the cosmos. It's all a part of God. It's all a part of source. The thing is that we've been running programming and also sourcing energies that are that have gotten in the way, okay, of us. And those are the cycles we're closing out. And so if you getting where you need to be is overcomplicated, right? Choose soul, choose source, and realign. It's really easy. You'll work back up. But when you come back to the concept of what the soul is, outside of the programming, outside of the languages, outside of the teachings, we now get to the essence. And the ego doesn't have to make sense of that. The essence just is. And when we get back to the essence, we begin to really collaborate with a new level of us. Doesn't have to think or do. And the mind doesn't have to get in the way of. We're not here to shut down the mind, strain the mind, or hurt the mind. We're here to allow this thing to just get out of the way so the channels can open, the body can soften, and we can get soul back in. And when soul is back in, it will rebuild and it will recorrect. but we got to return to simplicity. Don't allow the overcomplicated, loud, fear-mongering systems and the things that over-intellectualize get in the way of you and your own inner soul, your own inner light. And please don't allow the masters' teachings of others and the things that have happened in other lifetimes to strain you or to stress you out. This is about getting our cortisol levels lowered and or balanced, right? Getting out of adrenal fatigue, getting out of stress, getting the nervous system to regulate and begin to trust people again, to trust our own inner advice, to trust our own inner compass, right? And that process can take time. Simply put, it's very easy to trust others. It's very easy to trust the voice of others. It's easy to trust parents, guardians, and some of us don't know what that inner voice is, and this is where it can be scary. I understand. As I'm saying this, I feel my own emotions rising up, and so I know I still got work to do here. Remembering to trust your inner compass and your inner guide and your own inner language and your own inner mastery can feel like a lot, because we now have to dissolve all the dependency and attachment on others and the way others do things. But over time, you're going to find your footing again. That's a part of the rehabilitation, right? So back to Martin Luther King, right? If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl, right? But just take it one step at a time. Take it one moment at a time. Give yourself some grace and compassion instead of expecting it from others, right? Life is not a harsh punishment. Life is a learning. And give yourself an opportunity to dissolve a lot of the detail and the argument and the back and forth, right? Get off the firing line of division. Come back to that soul source experience. Remember, opinions are opinions. What do I say? Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one and they stink. They don't. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, right? It's just what the ego does. It's the way we see things. But you can dissolve the opinion and really come back to that soul-aligned truth, that soul-aligned experience, that soul-aligned expression. Just come back to that space and just be okay being there. Hey, guess what? The soul might not sound as fancy as the Galactic Federation of Light, and your soul might not sound as fancy as a 12th dimensional dragon. Your soul might not sound as fancy as a seraphim, or as an avatar, or as a Lyran, or as a Syrian, and I'm not discrediting any of those beings. I'm letting you know that some of us are still healing those vows and oaths and agreements to allow those beings to become more important than our soul. And at those greater levels, they are a part of our soul, but we're just getting out of the ego and the indoctrination that says that our soul doesn't matter. And this is about us not bashing, shaming, or judging the beings aspects or the channelers, but let's begin to build that soul back into our journey and see where it takes us and allow that to take shape in a brand new and organic way that assists us in the new journeys that are unfolding for us here on planet Earth. I love you guys. Much love and respect to all of you out there. Thank you again for your likes, shares, and subscribes. That's it. I expect nothing of you. I just wanted to share this little bit of information that showed up during dream time and giving us an opportunity to really harness the soul level and the soul work that continues, and things will change, things will shift. But this message is for this now moment. But remember, hold on to nothing and attach to nothing, because it can change in a split second, and we got to be okay with those shifts and those changes and those transitions and transformations that occur. We're all just Phoenix rising from the ashes right now, and we have to allow that to be what it is, as it unfolds and transforms. But a lot of this is trusting God, trust source, and trust your unique experience, because your soul expression is important and your soul expression matters. I love you. Namaste.